All right, so hopefully you watched the Louis C.K. How Louis C.K. tells a joke. So you've gotten this idea about the three big things that we're going to talk about, and that is pausing, or they said timing, the way that Louis C.K. has a small pause after he gives the punchline. We talked about pausing for the punchline, right? And you noticed he also has a hand gesture, right? They showed the hand gesture. And you notice that he repeats his punchline. He doesn't say the exact same words, but he uses a different word to say the same thing. He says something like, the loss is it's a dark loss. It's heavy. So both things refer to the same loss. One time he says it's dark, one time he says it's heavy. So it's important to have good vocabulary. That was my point. All right. And we're not going to be talking about Louis C.K., how he tells a joke. The point is that you see a comedian, he's super professional, he's practiced it a million times, and he's perfected his style. He has a certain style. All that being said, put that aside and then come back to us. We are not going to tell jokes and we are not going to be stand up comedians. That's not what we're here for. We're here to practice using humor as a way of getting our information across in a way that's not stiff and it's not too in a box, right? We talked about if you're always doing the same thing, then it gets boring for the audience and they just stop listening to you. We also talked about timing and how it's very effective in refocusing people's attention. We also talked about hand gestures and how those are a good way to keep your pace, to keep you focused, to keep your audience able to see that you're paying attention to what you're saying, so they should pay attention to what you're saying. It also keeps their attention on you because you're using your hands. You're not just a square robot who does nothing and speaks in a monotone. Okay. When we talk about using humor, now I'm going to tell you a joke. Even though the advice for this lesson says, don't tell jokes. It's not about telling a joke. Here's my thing. My thing is, sometimes first of all, it's clean, not a dirty joke. A dirty joke means a joke about sex. Like the Louis C.K. was talking about playing Monopoly with his children. So, a clean joke, first of all, it has to be a clean joke. And second of all, your joke, just like your anecdote, has to have a purpose. So, when I talked to you about sensitive topics, I told you about being Jewish, right? And I told you it doesn't mean anything and da 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 da. I'm going to tell you a joke to try to explain to you. I've told this joke every time I explain what being Jewish is like. I tell the same joke, okay? My mom bought me two shirts. Two brand new shirts. They're so nice. They're so fancy. They're not this shirt. This is a cute shirt. She bought me super fancy shirt. So nice of her. She was so kind. And the next day, I woke up and the first thing I did was I put on one of the nice new shirts so she'd see, thank you, I'm so thankful. And I come out to breakfast and she takes one look at me and she says, what was wrong with the other shirt? You didn't like it? That's the joke. I don't know if your mom is like that. Maybe she's like that. But that is what we consider a typical Jewish mother. Nothing is good enough. I mean, nothing. She will not. If she gives you two pieces of food and you start eating one, she says, what's wrong with the other one? You don't like it? I'll make you something else. Just tell me what you want. Sounds like it comes from a place of love, but it's somehow also a criticism. My joke is, this really basic joke about being Jewish. So, number one, it's an ethnic joke. I am Jewish, so I can tell that joke. Okay. If you're not Jewish, don't tell Jewish jokes. If you're Korean, tell Korean jokes. If you're Chinese, tell Chinese jokes. Asian jokes. If you're Asian, you can tell Asian jokes. But if you're Jewish, then you can tell Jewish jokes. So notice, I'm not making fun of a different culture. That's a big no-no. Don't make fun of other people's cultures. But I can make fun of my own culture. That's fine. Okay. Now, so one thing, it's ethnic, but it's clean. I'm that ethnic. That's my background, so I can tell that joke. And the reason to tell that joke is to explain something to my friend. They don't know many Jewish people. They don't understand, well, what does it mean? What kind of people are they? All they know is maybe, oh, they're rich. I mentioned this before. Oh, they're rich. A lot of people have a connection between Jews and money, but it's not usually a nice one. So I tell my students, don't say that. But I tell them this joke because I think it illustrates very well the Jewish mother, the traditional Jewish mother. I think perfectly describes my mother, perfectly describes a lot of women, Jewish women that I know, okay? So in a conversation about being Jewish, I would use that joke, okay? So it has a reason for being there. Don't just tell a Jewish joke just for no reason, okay? And don't tell a Jewish joke if you're not Jewish. All right. So if you're worried that your joke may be about a sensitive issue, don't tell it. The saying goes, if in doubt, leave it out. Just don't do it. It's better to be boring than to be offensive. Offensive is very bad. All right. When you are thinking about using humor, I don't think you need a joke. If you don't have a clean joke, if you're worried your joke may be too offensive, don't use it, and just use anecdotes. Anecdotes are, we talked about this, anecdotes are moments from your life. When something funny happens to you, write it down in your anecdote list, record, log, and use an anecdote instead of a joke to convey humor. Think about the Louis C.K. story. He's a comedian, so he can make anything funny. But he's talking about playing Monopoly with his daughters. Now that's something that's happened to him. And he turns that into a little funny thing. But instead of turning something normal into a funny thing, if something funny happens to you, then you tell the anecdote as a funny thing. And you have to have a log or a chart or a list so that you can match the information and the anecdote so that they are connected. If they're not connected, it doesn't make sense. Okay, I don't expect you to be Louis C.K. I don't expect you to be a comedian. When you are going into a room using humor, it's not just about jokes, it's not just about anecdotes, it's more of a way to make the people listening to you feel more comfortable. When you come into a room, look at your audience. If it's a nice day and everybody's in there and they're all refreshed and everyone's great, say, everybody here looks so beautiful and healthy, I'm so surprised, blah, blah, blah. Acknowledge the audience, comment about the audience. It makes them feel better. If it's a rainy day and everyone looks so gloomy, be like, oh, I'm sorry you guys have to be here. It's so terrible weather we're having. Just acknowledge the fact that it's wet outside and people look so unhappy, and promise to give a short introduction or be brief, and then do it. Be brief and let them go early or something. Just be there for the people who are listening to you, right? Include the audience in your idea of what you're saying, because that's who's listening to you. That's who's getting the information you want. Last thing I want to mention is that you don't need to expect people to laugh. Even if you use a joke, even if you have a really funny anecdote that you've practiced and you've tried it out and everybody you've told it to thinks it's hilarious, just let go of this idea that people are going to laugh out loud and use the anecdotes or use the tools to make an interesting presentation, and don't worry too much about people actually laughing out, like showing their how excited they are to be listening to you. Having that expectation will make you feel bad if it doesn't come out or if you don't notice it or something. So just let it go. Feel the crowd and be appreciative that they showed up. What's worse than a crowd that's not laughing at your jokes is nobody showed up to your lecture or your seminar or your presentation or the meeting, right? And you're alone there and there's no one to talk to. All right. So I'm laughing because I don't have an audience. I'm hoping this is going out to people and I'm hoping it's helpful, but I have no idea. Okay. So, I hope you enjoyed Louis C.K. I hope that you will continue to watch comedians and pay attention to their pausing and their hand gestures and their funny noises. They're using all of that stuff for a reason, and you can learn how to do that. It's not impossible. A lot of it has to do with creating an emotion and then doing whatever you have to do to make the audience feel that emotion with you. Okay. We can get good at that. It has to do with changing your tone, with making silly noises and not being afraid of that kind of stuff. It has to do with sometimes using really big hand gestures when you need them. And it has to do with being in a good mood, I think. If you're in a bad mood, it's very hard to be funny. So remember to smile. Remember to try, make mistakes, and keep going. We have one more lesson. I'm going to talk about TED Talks and what makes them so great. Yeah, what makes them so great. And hopefully you will be practicing all of these different things, all the tasks I've given you, and you can let me know next class how much you think you've improved. All right. Until then, guys, have a great day, week, whatever.